So far, we have been overwriting the requests that we send to OpenAI. In this lesson, we will save all the requests and their responses on disk in a specified directory. Before we continue, let's do a little bit of refactoring and extract the code that produces the request that we send to OpenAI into its own function. So we copy that code and we replace it by chatgpt-request, so a call to chatgpt-request function that we are going to define right now that takes the prompt as argument. So we define that function that takes the prompt as argument, the docstring, so return an OpenAI request with prompt. So we have that, and that function return that list. So we pass that list. Now we evaluate that expression which defines ChatGPT request. We evaluate also the next expression which redefines ChatGPT-send. We jump into the buffer ChatGPT where we have the prompt hello. We call ChatGPT-send, and now we go into the buffer ChatGPT request and we see that we get the response to our request, and so everything is still working correctly. Let's continue with a little bit more of refactoring. Specifically, we are going to extract the following code into its own function, and that code is responsible for inserting the prompt and the response into the buffer ChatGPT request once we receive the response from OpenAI. So we copy that code, we replace it by ChatGPT, a call to the command chatgpt-callback that we are going to define right now, that takes the prompt as argument and the response. So let's define it right there, like that. The docstring with 3 dots for now, and the code, which is the following. So we evaluate that expression which defines ChatGPT callback. We also evaluate again the expression that redefine ChatGPT-send. We jump into the buffer ChatGPT with the prompt hello. Maybe we replace it by 4 bars, and now we call ChatGPT-send, and we go into the buffer ChatGPT request, and we see that this is working as expected. In this section, we are going to modify the command chatgpt-send such that each request that we send to OpenAI is saved in a unique directory alongside with the corresponding JSON response. So to do that, we start by modifying the variable regpath. We set it to the concatenation of regdir, a unique directory that we are going to create after, and the file name request.json. Regdir variable, we create that directory with the function makeTempFiles, which takes nil as first argument and true to create a directory. If we evaluate that last expression within the echo area, that we've created a new and unique directory as a subdirectory of /tmp/. We are going to change that just after, but notice also that it doesn't end with a slash, and we are going to change that right now using the function file name as directory. So now if we evaluate that new expression, we see that this ends with a slash. Now the base directory /tmp/temporary is controlled by the variable temporary file directory. So we evaluate that variable and we see in the echo area that we have /tmp/, and we are going to set that variable in the let's star form to be ChatGPT dir. Okay, and now we define that variable ChatGPT dir to be home Tony ChatGPT Emacs, and we want all the requests to be in that directory. Request which ends with an S, and the docstring is going to be request directory. Okay, so we evaluate that expression which defines the variable ChatGPT-dir, and now to be able to use that directory in ChatGPT-send, we must be sure that it is created. So make directory of chatgpt-dir, and true at the end. This is to say that create the parent directory if they don't exist. We're almost done, but last thing that we are going to do is to print a message to say that we've sent a request. So we can pass a message like ChatGPT, and we are just going to pass the directory, so rec dir. Okay, so now we can evaluate that whole expression which redefines chatgpt-send. We jump into the buffer chatgpt, this buffer, which contains the prompt foo_bar bars, and we change it to hello. We call chatgpt-send, and now let's go into that buffer. We see that at the end we've received the response from OpenAI, and more importantly, we are going to look here in that directory. We've created the request directory. We have one subdirectory that corresponds to the request that we've sent. Let's see that request, which contains the prompt hello. Now that we write the request in unique directories, we are going to do the same for the JSON responses. So let's take a look at the code we are going to modify, this one. Specifically, before calling chatgpt-callback function, we are going to write to disk the response resp that we receive from OpenAI. So let's copy that code where we define the path to the request.json files, and we are going to modify it a little bit for the response. So we passed it here, and we replace the file name request.json by response.json, and we are going to modify the variable name, no longer rec path but resp path. Now we want to write to that file the response here before calling chatgpt-callback. We are going to copy that expression that we used previously. We passed it here, and now we have several fields to do. We no longer want to write the request to rec path but resp path, and we no longer encode the request but the response resp. If we want this to be pretty printed, we also need to use JSON encoding pretty print again, and we set it to true. Now we evaluate that whole expression which redefine chatgpt-send. We jump back into a chatgpt buffer with the prompt hello. We call chatgpt-send function, and now we should have in the request directory a new directories that contain the request with the prompt hello and the response. So we have the response with the content which says hello, how can I assist you today? Before we continue, let's do a little bit of refactoring. We can see in the command chatgpt-send that we bind twice the variable JSON-encoded prettyprint. So maybe a good idea would be to do that in a dedicated function. So let's define the function chatgpt-json-encode, which take an Emacs Lisp object, and we want it to be pretty-printed when we encode it. So we bind the variable JSON-encoded prettyprint to true, and now we call the function JSON-encode, which takes the object as argument. So we evaluate that expression which defines chatgpt-json-encode, and now we are going to use it in chatgpt-send. So we look here for chatgpt-encode. We have it. So we are going to modify it in both places. So chatgpt, we replace JSON-encode by chatgpt-encode. We remove this binding of JSON-encoding prettyprint variable in that let, and we do the same in the first let in chatgpt-send. So now we evaluate that whole expression which redefine chatgpt-send. Now we go into the buffer chatgpt with the prompt hello. We call the function chatgpt-send, And let's go into the message buffer, and we see we have that line that tells us the directory of the request that we just sent, and we are going to find that directory. We go there, and now we have the request with the prompt hello, everything is okay, and it also works with the response. Finally, we are going to modify the function chatgpt-callback such that when we insert the prompt and the response in the buffer chatgpt-request, we also are going to insert a link to the request directory. So to do that, we add a new argument to the function chatgpt-callback that we call recdir. We also modify the string that we insert, and we want in a markdown command to insert a link to the request directory recdir, and we now close that link. We also close that comment to a new line. We evaluate that expression which redefines chatgpt callback, and now we need to modify the call to chatgpt callback, and we pass a third argument which is recdir, that is a variable defined in the first list of that function. We evaluate that expression which redefines chatgpt-send, and now we jump into the buffer chatgpt where we have the prompt hello. We call the function chatgpt-send, and now we jump into the buffer chatgpt-request where we see that we have inserted the request directory, and we can jump to it with Ctrl+C-O, and this is what we have, the request.json file and the response.json file. In this lesson, we've seen how to save all the requests that we send to OpenAI with their corresponding responses. Next time, we will implement a command that displays the prompt buffer at the bottom of the frame.